Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Whole bunch of people sent me this story, including Bill. Thank you very much. This version is from SF Gate and written by Olivia Hebert. California's new bar exam launch was a disaster. Now test takers are suing. Yeah, if you get a bunch of wannabe attorneys upset, you might get sued. And I can call them wannabe attorneys because they ain't attorneys yet. They want to be attorneys. The fallout from the State Bar of California's messy rollout of its new bar exam continues to escalate as test takers have now filed a proposed federal class action lawsuit against the company that was administering the test as a vendor for the California bar. The complaint was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, describes the chaos that unfolded as time slipped away for test takers who were physically prevented from completing one of the most difficult bar exams in the country. And this is something that attorneys across the nation will agree upon, that if California's bar exam is not the most difficult, it is certainly one of the most difficult. The complaint says, as a result of the total technical breakdown, the exam was a disaster for test takers who were traumatized, who had their career ambitions delayed, and who paid the vendor a fee for a defunct platform. Although the state bar is not named as a defendant, the complaint alleges that the bar and the vendor fast-tracked the exam and ran it on software the vendor had rushed to deploy that wasn't prepared to accommodate the people taking the test. Knowing that applicants would likely fail this crucial test because of the vendor's inadequate response to problems with its testing platform, the state bar offered a fee waiver to applicants to retake the exam in July. So they offer the exam twice a year, and if need be, you can take it at either time, and sometimes people take it at the other time because the first time they failed it. But here they're saying, well, we didn't fail because we didn't know the material. We failed because this platform crashed or didn't work right. The claims against the vendor could exceed $5 million, according to the complaint. Meanwhile, State Bar's Board of Trustees is set to weigh whether to approve a supplemental contract for further tests with this vendor. A dozen California law school deans have urged the California Supreme Court to intervene. Erwin Chemerinsky, dean of UC Berkeley, described the situation to the outlet as a stunning incompetence from an entity that exists to measure competence. Yes, that is the ironic thing. The job is to measure competence, and the people measuring it are incompetent, according to the dean of UC Berkeley's law school. The state bar postponed a retake of the test originally scheduled for March 3rd and 4th to March 18th and 19th, saying the delay was necessary after exam questions were leaked online. So they can't use the same exam because a bunch of people saw the questions. If the questions are out now, it makes it really easy to pass. The law school deans have formally requested the March retake be blocked, calling for a full review of the failures and an independent oversight process. So what we're talking about, I'm going to back up here a little bit, there are technical glitches, proctoring chaos, and system failures during this new format for the bar exam. And so California is the second largest bar exam jurisdiction after New York. There were 12,000 aspiring attorneys who completed the test in 2024. Tuesday, this year's test, debuted California's hybrid two-day licensing exam created by a vendor, and that one removed components of the national bar exam for the first time in decades. However, there were other problems. The first day of the exam, which can now be taken remotely, was plagued with significant technical failures that prevented some test takers from launching the test. The State Bar Executive Director acknowledged the scope of the problem on Wednesday in a statement to Reuters saying, it's clear that the exam did not go smoothly for an unacceptable number of test takers. Test takers reported being disconnected mid-exam, goodbye, being locked out of the testing platform, and being unable to cut and paste in the performance test section. Another said proctors' attempts to log in on their computers caused repeated crashes. Some legal experts say these failures weren't just predictable, they were avoidable. What stands out most in my mind about the California bar exam debacle is that it was entirely foreseeable. says Sean Silverman, a lawyer and bar exam tutor. It's always a multi-year process to modify the exams, even if the modification is minor. This modification on the California bar exam was not at all minor, and the state bar thought months would be sufficient to modify it. So basically saying, look, this exam is being offered all the time. It usually is only changed slightly. And an overhaul of this nature should have been dealt with over a much longer period of time to make sure they got the bugs worked out of it. So as you can imagine, you went to undergrad, you went to law school, you graduated law school, you submitted all your character and fitness stuff to the bar, and then you're going to sit for the bar exam, and you study. Trust me, and then you're taking the bar exam remotely on a computer, and your computer crashes. And I'm only laughing because I can imagine the terror that would be. I've taken the bar exam, and you put all this time and effort into this. You've been focusing on this date. You've known this date for a long time. And now when your computer crashes, your first thought is, will I get to finish the exam today? If I can't finish the exam today, what happens? And by the way, if my computer crashes, will it look like it's my fault? Because at first you're going to think it's your fault. Like my computer crashes, you don't immediately realize that other people's computers are crashing, right? And so that's problem number one. But the other interesting thing is they say they did away with the national bar exam portion. And they often refer to that as the multi-state. And when you take the bar exam, like say in Michigan, it has two sections. One day is all Michigan law, and one day is the multi-state. And there's this organization that put together a thing that covers general law that tends to be the same from state to state. Constitutional law issues, for example, is one, and issues involving the federal rules of evidence is another, and then, of course, things like common law fraud and so on. So the multi-state exam is usually one half of the exam for most people. California, just because California likes to be different, has decided, let's get rid of the multi-state and we're going to do this instead. And then apparently, and this is I think what they said, is that to save money, rather than renting big halls for 2 days and making students come up there and then take a day's worth of exams and then spend the night, in a hotel, and then come back the second day, they go, hey, we can do this. We rent the hall for 1 day. And you take 1 day of it at home or someplace else, and then you do 1 day on site. And they thought, hey, that'll cut our costs in half. We don't have to rent a place for 2 days. And now I'm going to tell you right now, I took the bar exam on the floor of the Breslin Center, where Michigan State University plays basketball, back in 1991. You can do the math, but I'm a busy man. I won't do it for you. 1991. And you come down there, and they tell you if you're registered to take the test, go find your name on a name tag on a table. So you walk up and down the rows of tables, they're alphabetical, and you find a name tag, and you realize that they've got those big, long tables, okay? And they've got people really, really spread apart at these tables. And you sit down and you take out the thing that says that you're allowed to take the exam and the identification to prove that you are who you say you are. So someone else can't take the exam for you. And then you can have writing utensils. That's it. And so you sit down there, and a proctor comes by and checks your stuff, make sure that you are who you say you are. And then they hand out the exams at, a few minutes before whenever they're going to start the exam. They say, do not start until you're told to do so. And there's proctors, people walking around watching to make sure that nobody's doing anything that they shouldn't be doing. And then 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whatever the start time is, they go, you may now begin. And you go. And I'm getting flashbacks just thinking about it. I had a neck ache and a headache as a result of the first day of the exam because I spent so long looking down that I was focused and concentrating to the point where I didn't ever think to Steve, sit up and do this with your neck because otherwise it's going to hurt tomorrow. And I didn't do that, and it did hurt tomorrow, okay? But I passed the exam. And so you might say, but Steve, come on. You spent so many years going through regular school, couple years going through college, couple years going through law school. And I don't mean 2, I mean, 4 undergrad, 3 law, it's traditional. In my case, it was different, but that's another story altogether. However, You spend all this time, you take the exam, and the exam screws up on you and say, hey, you can retake it. What's the big deal? Among other things, people who put in a lot of time in preparing for something, you know that you often have a goal date, an end date you're focusing on. And a lot of people I know literally were studying for the months preceding the bar exam. And then about 2 weeks out, stopped everything else they were doing. If they had a job, they said, can I have 2 weeks off? Okay? And they spent the last 2 weeks cramming as much as you can, like literally to where you're almost burned out every single day and you start again tomorrow. And you're just studying. And then you walk into the exam center like I did, and you're at peak performance. That's where you are. And they say, oh, by the way, the exam is down. Modern technology, what are you going to do? Come back in 2 weeks. That would screw you up. But there's something else going on here, and you have to understand this as well. A lot of people, when they're in law school, start looking for jobs. And a lot of people get jobs lined up. And so traditionally what they'll tell you is they'll say, look, you're graduating in the spring of 2025. Okay. You take the July bar exam? Yeah, okay, cool. Well, here's the deal. When you graduate and you've got your JD, but you're not admitted to practice law yet, you can come work for us and you'll be clerking. And then you'll take the bar, pass the bar, and once you pass the bar, you become an attorney. And a lot of law firms will hire recent graduates as clerks on the understanding that they're going to become lawyers shortly thereafter. And I've known people who got jobs who didn't pass the bar and then had that uncomfortable conversation with their boss about, okay, I need you to keep me on as a clerk for 6 more months until I take the bar exam again. So there are legitimately test takers who were going to take the test. Their plan was to pass the test and become an attorney for their new employer. And many of them now, whether they get fired or not, it depends on its case-by-case basis. But the real question is, if you went to work someplace and it's a small place and they go, look, you're a clerk, but as soon as you're a lawyer, we're going to have you hit the ground running and we got stuff for you to do. And you come in and go, hey, the exam crashed. I need 6 more months. I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who are told, I'm really sorry, we need someone now. I'm sorry, we just need someone now. So it's a crazy situation, but underlying it is the idea that they decided to radically overhaul how the test was administered. And instead of just changing the format of the questions or the length of time you've got to answer, they decided, we're going to let it be that you can take the test from a remote location using a laptop or computer, and that system that we've got in place will allow that to happen. System didn't work, and suddenly you got thousands of test takers who are like, wait, what? Oh, you can retake the test a few months down the road. The platform wasn't quite ready for prime time. So don't know how you'd quantify the damages of that, but I suspect that they're going to get something out of this. And I can tell you right now, this is another example where I know a lot of people say, hey, if I got hurt, I would sue. If I got hurt, I wouldn't sue. The sad part about this is a lawsuit like this can only get you money. Someone cuts you a check, here, have some money. Most people, myself included, would rather have gotten to take the test on time and not have to worry about that. So yeah, someone's got to pay some money down the road, but it ain't going to make anybody whole. And that's the sad part about this, because there are legitimately recent law school graduates who had everything mapped out, and this is the one thing that you would not expect to be the stumbling block, and that is that the bar exam would crash. So there you go, Bill. Everybody else, thanks for sending that from SF Gate. Olivia Hebert wrote that. California's new bar exam launch was a disaster, and now there's a class action lawsuit. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success.